I'm seeing it. The episode's going to go long.
No! What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Keith and Mike Watch Deep Space Nine. Today, we're talking about Season 5, Episode 10, Rapture. And if you were worried, hey, have Keith and Mike been raptured? Where was the episode last week? If you weren't a patron, then you missed us for a week because we're pretty busy. But last week, if you were a patron, we watched Star Trek First Contact all together because that took place between last week's episode, The Ascent, and this week's episode, Rapture. But Mike's show is finishing this week, right? It's your last week?
Mm-hmm. Last week.
I am going to go come and see it tomorrow. Jillian and I are going to go see the show. It's going to be so exciting.
That's going to be exciting.
We're going to drive down to Philly. It's going to be 10,000 degrees.
We're going to get a Rita's.
We're definitely gonna get a Rita's water ice. I'm just saying the theater better be damn well air conditioned.
It's gonna be hot, man. I'm telling you right now, it's gonna be hot.
It's not good.
They try to chill it, but it doesn't work. But maybe tomorrow will be a different day. Who knows?
Seems unlikely because it's like 90 billion degrees.
At least you don't have to wear a tuxedo.
That's true. Yeah, I should wear black because I'm going to sweat through whatever I wear anyway. Which, to be fair, anytime I perform, I do regardless. It could be 30 degrees outside, and I'm still going to be. Anyway, so how is it going, Mike?
It's been great. It's been a lot of fun. It's been great to revisit the show. Obviously, it's been a lot of work. It's been really taxing. I got sick. Then other people got sick. We've had, they decided to save a buck and not have understudies, and it's come back to bite us. But I'm really proud of everybody for deciding to push through rather than cancel shows and such. And obviously we want everybody to be safe. So, but it's been great. It's been fun. A lot of friends have come out. Some fellow plaids, some former plaids. It's been awesome. I'm so thankful to be done though. I'm so happy to be done.
Yeah, well, it allows us to get back into our swing here with all of our shows. So we've had a quiet summer thus far. We're going to get a heck of a lot louder as we move
Not
forward.
Only did we watch First Contact with all of the patrons, but in the interim of the week that we had off on YouTube, we also aired 2 other patron exclusives that you can check out at patreon.com/KandM, where we watched Best of Both Worlds, Parts 1 and Parts 2, to give a little context to the Borgs before we watched the movie. So there's a lot of
Mike
content
had never
over there.
seen.
Never, and it was awesome.
Mike had literally, we get to watch Mike's face as he experiences Best of Both Worlds for the very, very first time. It's really fun. So check it out at patreon.com/KandM. But it's not time for that now.
No.
Mike, what time is it? It is time to talk about last week's episode, The Ascent, and read your viewer feedback about the episode, and about us too, because it's all the above. And if Mike, if I were to, if somebody would want me to read a portion of their comment, how would they do that?
Keith, if you wanted to verbally sweat through your clothes
every week
onto our YouTube, you could do so by leaving a comment in the YouTube channel, but we'll read it if you go ahead and hit that super tip button. Or, once again, as we said many times already in the first 5 minutes here, you could also become a Patreon at patreon.com/KandM.
Yeah, yes, indeed. All right, so here is what you had to say about last week's episode. Joshua Cronin says, "Oh my God, you kept calling Nog Rom."
Okay, hold on.
In the beginning,
Keith,
so
just
many
stop
times.
right there.
Yeah, all right.
So there have been 2 times on the channel where we've gotten, just visceral anger. 2 times.
Yeah.
One time, we were reviewing a toy. We happened to call an escape pod a window. People were pissed.
Oh my God!
In this very fun, just watch along of an episode, we happened to refer to we confused Nog and Rom a couple times, maybe many times, it sounds like. And
I think many times, yeah.
rather than just find it, cute, amusing, clever, or funny, you're pissed. And so here I'm going to officially just apologize. I will do my best to never confuse Rog and Nog again. Rog. Rog and Nog.
Perfect. Perfect. No notes. No notes. I did not take it as people being pissed. I took it as people taking the piss out of us, and we deserve it.
Oh, hell yeah. Keep it coming.
Joshua says, did it so many times. I laughed so hard. You guys are great. Don't ever change. See, Mike? See? This episode I enjoy. I always love the back and forth of Quark and Odo. This episode epitomizes it. Lots of laughs from me. 75 self-sealing stem bolts. Pretty good. Yeah, and the thing is with Nog and Rom. All right, two things. A, they're very similar names by intent. Right? It's like this is sort of like the Ferengi sort of short names, whatever, on the ah vowel. Also, like, my brain is not good right now. I got a lot on my plate, so it's going to continue to happen a lot. So anyway, but I'm glad you found it funny, because I didn't even know I was doing it. That's the best kind of humor. Jason Moe says, so you'll be watching First Contact in its entirety, or just viewing short excerpts like we do here with the comments? I agree with Keith that The Ascent is better in my memory than in actuality. The Odo Quark stuff is actually gets a bit dull for me, but the payoff in the end is great. I do prefer the Nog Jake stuff. Nog rocked those shake weights like a boss. 79 stem bolts. YouTube viewer says, you guys mix up Rom and Nog's name a lot. See, there it is. We do. But here's the thing, did you mean Nog and Rom or Rom and Nog? Who knows? I could have mixed them all up. You even call Quark by the wrong name once. Do all Ferengi look alike to you? Speciest. Oh my. Yeah. Wow. Shots fired. Shots fired. I do not mind it when you use a large portion of the episode to go over the feedback from the last episode. This is one of my favorite parts of the show. See, we have different feelings here. YouTube viewer just likes picking us apart. I think you find that entertaining, which, to be fair, is. I don't have a lengthy review for The Ascent. My few issues with the show are the result of filming travel scenes in the mountains on a TV budget. Yeah. They did the best they could with what they were given. The A plot and B plot were pretty simple, but done well. I think you guys like to use the metaphor of a simple meal that is prepared well. In my case, my favorite simple meal is fried chicken and mashed potatoes. And that's a very enjoyable... I go for that right friggin' now. I find that's a very enjoyable dinner, and the more Aaron Eisenberg I see, the better. 84 self-sealing stem bolts. Pretty good.
Keith, rando, we'll do a little AMA here. You can pick one meal, and you got to have it for the next month. It's it. All 3 squares, and it's 1 month. That's it.
Ooh. Okay. Because if it was like last meal, it would be lobster.
Yeah, different.
Now, can I change the toppings on it, or does it have to be the exact same topping?
Slight variation acceptable, but basically the same.
Okay. Well, I mean, honestly, like a pasta.
Yeah.
Because you can make pasta taste like a 10 trillion different things. Mm-hmm. Pizza is always
it's a good choice.
It might be pizza. Because like
it's hard to go against pizza. For me though, it's always just breakfast. Like give me scrambled eggs and toast, right? Or like an omelet and toast. I can have breakfast all the time, anytime.
I don't really eat breakfast. I'm trying to get into eating. I got some of those like what are those oats, like the next day morning overnight oats thingies in Costco yesterday. Mm-hmm. Pretty good.
Yeah, man. Breakfast is great. Thing is, I don't eat breakfast. I generally don't eat till like midday.
And so that's my problem too.
So I skip breakfast, but breakfast is my fave. So,
well, there we go. This has been, eating talk with Keith and Mike.
Well, eating talk important because this episode highlights what I appreciate, and we don't ever really mention it too much, is that with the replicator, people don't really cook much. But interesting that Trek decides to like focus on the Sisko's cooking all the time, and also the Captain Cute guy from Strange New Worlds. He's always cooking too.
Well, I mean, because it's more of an art form, but it's a little bit that way now, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't have a replicator, but I have
Like
a freezer.
Yeah, and you have
And
Grubhub.
I'm either Grubhub or just like grabbing something out of the freezer and heating it up because I'm lazy. But when I do cook, it's like a special thing.
Yeah.
And so I almost never ever cook other than like grilled cheese sandwiches and stuff. But anyway, JD says runabouts can max out at 8.75 for 2 hours with a standard cruise is warp 5. Odo is probably doing a slow cruise of just 4 to mess with Quark. Yeah, we had another one that it might be an energy saving. If it's like on the highway. If you're going 80, you don't get the same fuel mileage you do at 60.
Quark does in the runabout what Keith does at bars, the slow cruise.
By slow cruise, do you mean sitting in the corner silently by yourself and talking to no one?
Maybe.
Or actually never going to a bar anymore? I'm trying to think of when is the last time I went to a bar that wasn't like a meal or something.
I can remember the last time you and I went to just a bar and had a beer. It wasn't in good times, but
it was bad times. Bad times, sir.
But I remember it. That might be the last.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I think it might have been before the end times.
It's weird. It used to be that was how you met people, right? You would go to bars with some friends and like you would chat up with strangers. Now, I would imagine, I don't know, that is exclusively seen as Creep Fest USA. People who just like random chat up people at bars.
Oh yeah. No, I definitely. Oh, that's not true. I have had drinks with some of my producer friends a couple of times post pandemic, but I don't ever go anywhere here in Jersey. I have to go into the city to do it.
Yeah.
And then it's like you're meeting somebody and like you have a drink or two, but it's not like I don't think I have never once in my life gone into a bar to meet someone romantically. Ever in my life.
I don't see
that ever happening. Yeah. I don't see that ever happening. JD continues making fun of me. Habitable. Did I mention my brain is a little bit overtaxed at the moment? Quark is Odo. Odo is Jake. Jake is Ben. Rom is Nog. Do we need a character face sheet and you two can print and hang by the monitor? I actually appreciate the character stuff in this despite the pacing issues. Also, yes, brain was bad last episode. I admit it. My brain's going to be bad for a while. And sort of an exercise for you two, Mike. You ready for this? Try and see if you can really explain why you two are friends when you really care about someone. Putting it into words can be awkward and difficult, and I feel that's how it is for Quark and Odo. Interesting. All right, Mike. Why are you my friend?
I mean, you want to go straight? It's like brand loyalty, right? We've been.
You started drinking Coke as a teenager.
Ago, but here's the thing with brand loyalty,
you're stuck
right?
with it.
Brand loyalty is also continuously earned, right? So, like, if I wear Brooks all the time, that's my sneaker of choice. If they start putting out crappy models, I will change eventually, and that's the thing. So yeah, we've been friends for a long time, so there's a comfort factor in it. But you continually earn your stripes. You're loyal. You're a good friend. We can have chats. We can be serious. We can be funny. I mean, that's all the good things you want. I always say relationships are two-way streets, right? If you're not getting what you're given, you probably should take a different route. And I've always feel like that you are a very reciprocal pal, and I will continue that relationship as long as it is that way.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. Like our relationship.
We also make hundreds of dollars a year.
We make hundreds of dollars a year together, so it is definitely a financial arrangement for sure. I'll say this: like we've been friends for a very long time, and our friendship has continued to
evolve,
and continue to evolve and grow as we change and evolve and grow as people. And here's what I'll say: that over the years, we are given opportunities to all right, like that day at the bar. Like I'm like we've never really had this kind of a conversation before, but I'm just going to throw this out there and see, like, is this that type of a friendship? Are we going to rise? Are you going to rise to the bar? Are you going to meet this new level of relationship, this new level of thing? And I think, given many opportunities over the years to let's try pushing it and doing this, let's try collaborating on something together. Let's try being the type of friends who talks about real shit. Let's be the type of friends that whatever, as opposed to just playing video games and football. And every time that door is opened, you have risen to that level. I'm like, okay, no, you are that type of a friend. And
Keith
I think
and Mike continuously auditioning.
Yeah, indeed. Never booking anything.
Never booking.
We had, our avail checks are always.
We are not offered only.
But weird, I am offer only.
Just never offered.
I just never offered.
There's a good play in here somewhere. We have to write this down.
You know how here's where my career is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if my phone is on mute or not.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
I had to start directing so that I could cast myself.
That's the reason I started writing.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Oh,
all right. Anyway,
it's way too hot. Holy crap, it's hot.
JD says 81 self-sealing stem bolts. Harry Pothead says 70 stem bolts. The main story just drags, and the B story is my favorite part, but it really lacks in most of the ways that it could. Kevin Miles says, I guess I'm not as critical as most. If I watch an episode of anything and feel it is a waste of my time, and it isn't a waste of my time, I consider it a plus.
Yeah.
Both stories are good, but lacked in the fact that neither one of them got the amount of time it needed to tell them. Each had approximately 23-24 minutes to tell their stories, and each were shortchanged and suffered. I could see the mutual respect that Odo and Quark have for each other. If they didn't, Odo would have had Quark behind bars years ago. It is a game they play, and no one needs to be the winner. I agree. Therefore, I give this 90 self-sealing stem bolts. I know it is more than most of your subscribers would give it, but I hope you can see my point of view. Absolutely.
You know what it was? I have to interject because we didn't talk about this last week. I was thinking, though, they've made it pretty clear, and it's pretty clear to us, that Quark has made himself sort of indispensable, right? Even though he's a little squirmy when it comes to the letter of the law, we use his insider info all of the time. We use his back channel communication all the time. We use his connection to nefarious elements all of the time. We would be in a worse place strategically if we did ship him off to prison. So we better be careful about how flip we get about this.
He's what the CIA would call an asset.
Mm. Yep.
Right? He's just and like all of us have that guy in their lives, right? The guy who like is not really part of the main crowd, lives on the edges, but like if you need to just, something to fall off a truck, he'd be the one to figure out how to do that.
Real quick.
Your dad was that guy.
My dad was that guy. So real quick, my wife went. We used to have this car that got flat tires all the freaking time, and tires are expensive. And so Jen goes to her mechanic friend, who to like see if he's got any like deals on tires or whatever. So she's like, oh, I got a tire. Usually tires are a couple $100. She's like, I got one for $60. I was like, what? You got a tire for $60? I was like, well, let me see it. She's like, well, he's going to bring it over later. I was like, wait, he's going to bring it here to the apartment? And she's like, yeah, like after 8. So like after 8 o'clock, this dude just showed up in a van with a tire?
Uh-huh.
So that's the guy.
It's probably the tire that you got stolen earlier and they sold it back to you.
Oh, and I was like, so now you got a tire guy, Jen, who shows up at 8 o'clock in the event. We also adopted a cat once, we thought. And this lady just showed up in a U-Haul with cats in the back. We were like, you need to leave.
Oh, my God.
All right, I'm sorry. We have to get the episode going.
Whew. All right, so lastly, Hibernation Pod says, I love the mountainous scenery on a cold, sunny day. Well, I mean, that's what I grew up in. Mountainous scenery and cold, sunny day. That's Vermont to a T. A Quark Odo Weekend Survival Camp episode may not have been the best idea or even inevitable, but their closing moment made it all worth it. Regardless of what the episode was or not about, I knew right then and there to never underestimate a Ferengi 60 self-sealing stem bolts. Yeah, I mean, Quark really like made it happen both physically and emotionally. I think Ferengis pretend that they're weaker than they are for their own purposes. Mm-hmm. They can really, get down to it when they need to. All right, I think it is finally, mercifully, time to start talking about Rapture. What do you say, buddy?
Let's do it.
All right, so Rapture aired on December 30th, 1996. We were off for a few weeks with the movie coming out and all that kind of stuff. And so now we are practically New Year's 1996 on the cusp of 1997. And our top song, we have new top songs, but this one you're gonna know, and I can't wait to hear Mike's rendition. Please, for the love of God, unbreak my heart.
Unbreak my heart. Say you love me again. Oh no. Unbreak my quark. I missed it. I missed the joke right there.
Oh, that's Odo sitting on the mountain.
Yeah, unbreak my quark.
Unbreak my quark. Yeah, Tony Braxton.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's some jams back in the day. The top movie, interestingly, Michael, can you guess what the top movie was?
Well, I would hope it would be Star Trek First Contact.
Well, it was not. That was only the top for 1 week. This is now weeks after that. But Michael, can you guess what the top movie was?
I just said no.
Michael! The top movie was Michael!
The hell was that?
Remember the John Travolta thing where he plays like
An
Michael
angel?
the Archangel?
Oh
yeah.
my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Better forgotten, in my opinion, but
I think I saw it and I was like, The Travolta sans might be dying at this point.
Did he have long hair? Was that like when he debuted his long hair?
Yeah, he had like the long hair. Well, no, because he came back with Pulp Fiction.
Oh, Pulp was pre to this?
I think so.
I gotta see a picture here.
Because I'm pretty sure that Michael was in the post Pulp Fiction Travolta sans.
Yeah, he was in his like husky Travolta period.
So he went he went from like the cool sort of bob that he wore in Pulp Fiction, like blow it out, I'll be an angel, and this was there it is.
All right.
That was a thing they did.
That is a thing that happened. All right.
Oh my God.
Now it's now it's part of us.
And soon we would be getting Battlefield Earth. So this we ebb and flow. We rise and fall.
Yeah.
As don't we all? All right. Mike.
Yeah.
I got a very important question. What was on TV?
Oh yeah, not a lot of great stuff. I'll whip through it real quick. Dangerous Minds still on TV somehow. That was a thing that was happening. There was a show on CBS at 8 o'clock, followed by Murphy Brown, Sybil, and Ladies' Home Journal, Most Fascinating Women of 1996. Oh, interesting.
Wow.
Discovery finally started airing, and we saw Extreme Machines. The Holiday Bowl, Keith, was college football, I guess. Colorado 33, Washington 21. The Fox night at the movies was Madonna, Innocence Lost. And the NBC Monday night at the movies, we had the TV premiere. Keith, you ready for this? Batman, 1989's Batman.
Oh.
Maybe not the TV premiere. I said that, but there's nothing that indicates that it was the premiere. So
it seems like that would be pretty late for a 1989 TV premiere.
And then maybe my favorite thing. You know how the WB is always throwing stuff against the wall to try to make a show. So the WB's latest attempt, their primetime episode show on December 30th, 1996, was a show called Nick Freno, Licensed Teacher.
Wow, that sounds really exciting.
That's a thing. It pulled in a 1.5, so I don't know.
Bob Smith, fully certified plumber.
Better if it was mostly certified plumber.
Mostly certified. Yeah. Certified in most counties.
Yeah. Ooh, all right, that's what was on TV.
All right, well, I'll tell you what else was on TV, but not particularly this week, but I wanted to mention it because it happened in the intervening time. Voyager did the episode Macrocosm, which was their take on aliens.
That's cool.
So, it could use a special effects update, but the concept was pretty fun. All right, the weekly world news headline, they always bring it when it's the end of the year. Guess what? Shopaholics live longer. Do you know that?
I get it.
Yeah.
How to contact your spiritual guide. Top 5 herbal remedies. The perfect health. I only need one. Women hasn't slept in 30 years. Lucky charms for health, wealth, and happiness. How to tell if you were a space element and alien in a past life. World's oldest driving instructor turns 103. That is so hyper specific.
So, I feel like we should talk to Travolta to find out if we were a space alien in a past life.
And then Serena Sabik's 1997 horoscope love guide, Keith. Dear Dottie's hottest letters from 1996. We got color.
Dear Dottie! Amazing. All right. That was the hard-hitting news. Now let's get into the nonsense that is Rapture. It was directed by Jonathan West, who last directed Trials and Tribulations. It has a teleplay by Hans Beimler and a story by L.J. Strom, whom this is their only credit, so I'm assuming this was a submission. I think maybe it's time for a little thing we like to call... Now Keith, waste your time.
What?
With trivial trivia. Meow. All right. So, this is a big deal to me. I don't think Mike is quite as hyped up about this as I am, but golly, am I hyped about this. And this is the first episode to feature Starfleet officers wearing the gray top uniforms, which first appeared in First Contact, which came out just a couple of weeks before. Well, this uniform change covers the entire reach of Starfleet. The crew of sister show, Star Trek Voyager, continues to wear the original Deep Space Nine episodes, as they were spoiler alert, lost in the Delta Quadrant when the change is made and wouldn't even know that they had changed their uniforms.
I like that they say there's a toss away line where they mention it, but they don't make a big deal about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, does my uniform look brighter?
They also don't say anything about the Defiant, which I found interesting, right? Because didn't the Defiant get blown up or something, or
It got pretty beat up, and they make no mention of First Contact at all. And I believe I didn't write it down, but off the top of my head, I believe Ira Stephen Bear was pissed about how the Defiant was treated in the movie, because the Defiant, it's a Borg killing machine. It just goes out there and gets his ass kicked immediately. So I think he chose not to mention it because he didn't like how it was portrayed.
You know what? Worf's a little salty in this episode. Maybe that's why his room's messed up.
He's been time traveling. Worf has had a week.
Yeah.
And nobody's talking about it.
He's man, nobody wants to ask me how my week was? Okay.
No, I mean, I got a story, but no, you don't want to hear? Okay,
finally,
fine,
something
whatever.
He should be pissed at Dax about, and
no, well, I mean, a couple of weeks have gone by, so it's possible they gave it the full story, but we've moved on with our day. So the Deep Space Nine companion points out, understandably, that Deep Space Nine stock of the older uniforms were sent to Voyager to use. As most of the uniforms that we are wearing here, especially all the background actors, were from First Contact. So we're sort of doing hand-me-downs around here. But for me, this is when it all really kicks in. I love these uniforms. I think these are the best uniforms that Starfleet has ever had, the best any show has ever had. I think they're by far the coolest ones. That's just me. Mm-hmm. So, you know what, folks? Write in the comments, what's your favorite uniform?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of great ones out there, but this is it for me. So the scene with Sisko carving shapes into the melon was intended as an homage to the famous mashed potato scene from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I haven't seen that movie in too long. I need to go and watch that again. It's a masterpiece. Even with Richard Dreyfuss, who seems to have utterly lost his mind. So, according to Ronald D. Moore, First Minister Shakar was actually supposed to appear at the signing ceremony, but the writers ultimately decided it would have cost too much and been too boring to hire Shakar. That was my editorial. For what have been a very minor appearance. Frankly, he could have been in that scene, and I don't think anybody would have noticed. No shade to anybody. Shakar. Whatever. All right, so this is now the moment where we talk about the people we'd write in to any scene that we possibly could, who look good in any possible uniform, and who always show up to talk about the events of First Contact. Mike, have I stalled enough for you to be ready to introduce... I did so much work to make that smooth.
It was well done, Keith. I appreciate you. It's the patrons, folks. And I want to tell you that you can get all of the content on our Patreon page for $1. Now, of course, we appreciate subscriptions to any of the amounts, if whatever you're able to give to help us keep the channel going. But for $1, you get behind the paywall for all of our watch-along stuff. I'm looking at the Patreon page right now, and I see that, Keith, of the 30 paid patrons we have, there are still 13 that are free. People who have taken the time to go to the page, like the page, and subscribe as free. Guys, $1 more, you get the stuff. It makes much more sense. Anyhow, we'd like to thank them, and I'll do so right now. Brian Kimball, Beersock, Jason Moe, Peter Pank, Frank Range, Quarks Bar, Merritt Neath, Joshua Cronin, Ryan Chesley, Andrew Hayes, and the Mysterious, Worf Spiegel Bluetooth, Charles Babbage, Harry Pothead, Alim, Anton Thies, Carl Fisher, CRM Productions, Nikolay Ivanovich Lobachevsky, Delusions at Noon, YouTube Viewer Hibernation Pod, James Hubbard, JD Makes, Colin Dagan, Chris Mitchell, CRM Pat, Joshua Cronin, JD, Lutz Kremer, White Eldridge, and do not forget our newest patron, Keith, who you've yet to put on the slide.
But I've got it here. It's Mary Halcomb. Thank you so much for joining. I didn't update the slide. I totally forgot. But I did not forget.
No, we never forget.
Our newest patron. Thank you so much for joining. And come to the watch-alongs. Come meet everybody. It's and here's the thing. On these watch-alongs with watching Mike or doing these movies, this is the nicest group of people.
My goodness, yes.
Out there. Mm-hmm. And it is like one of those like great, like it feels, it has like a summer camp vibe to it, like a theater camp, where like every time somebody joins, like everybody welcomes them all. And we're
I
really
gotta tell you
happy
exactly what
everybody.
It reminds me of a little bit, and I've been thinking about this lately. Way back in the day, around AOL time, there was another service called Prodigy, right? That was.
I remember. Yeah. I had a Prodigy.net.
As did I, and there wasn't a lot of games to play or anything like that on Prodigy, but there were chat boards, and there was this one chat called that I was part of called #JustChat, and it was a bunch of people of random ages, and we talked about what was on TV. We talked just random stuff, and it was awesome. I looked so forward to getting home from school and jumping on Just Chat. This is before the internet was particularly lecherous, well, at least in my experience, and it was just fun to chat with people and have little pen pals and things. And this is what it feels like when we all get together on Monday night or Tuesday night or for one of the watch-alongs, or even just chatting along on comments in thread of various posts we make. So it's if not for us, for the community, I think you would appreciate. And for the low cost of $1, you should jump in.
Yeah, well, get your dial-up modems, ping yourself to prodigy.net. And join our Patreon at patreon.com/K&M. Or our guest stars this week are Penny Johnson, back as Cassidy Yates out of prison. Oh, we're dialing in. Yeah.
All right, we're almost in. Mom! I'm on the internet!
Don't pick up the phone!
All right, who we got for the guest stars?
Oh my God. Penny Johnson back as Cassidy Yates, Ernest Perry Jr. as Charlie Wadley, the Admiral, and Louise Fletcher is here as Win Adami. Lots to talk about in, what do you say? We hop into the screening room and talk about it, shall we?
I haven't had access to that part of my voice in a couple weeks, so that was nice.
Oh, well. Hey, you better bring it tomorrow.
Oh, you know I'm going to.
Yeah, it's going to be, you're
going to
choose. Yeah, that's right. Not for me.
Yeah.
That's, she's going to be, you better melt some scenery.
She has a friend, she knows the SM, so that'll be fun.
That's right. I think she knows your jinx, too.
Oh, cool. That's great.
I think. She knew one of the jinx that might have been on your table that wasn't me, so who knows. All right, so here we are, Rapture, and in our teaser, Kiro. I've already started messing up the names. Kiro, the horrible Tuvix bastardization of Kira and Sisko, the transporter accident created Kiro, and Dax are looking at a painting of a lost Bajoran city of Valhalla. And they're rocking the new Starfleet uniforms we already talked about. Although Sisko got his uniform on Temu, so his shoulders are all messed up and his communicator is in the wrong place. And he doesn't get division sleeves. Which is crazy to see how his communicator is in the wrong place.
Yeah.
It's crazy. That's
weird,
crazy
right?
to me that, and it takes him 2 episodes to fix it. So we're debuting these new uniforms, and our captain, the star of this episode, has a messed up uniform. Huh. It's very strange. But, and he also doesn't have, the color on the division sleeves or whatever that. It's very strange. And as I'm watching these things so carefully now, it's just like, what is happening? Actually, and stay on that because I'm going to bring up what we can see in that. They just got the painting back from the Cardassians, and for the first time, and Sisko has borrowed it to give it a look. He's an expert on Bajoran history now, and is embracing his role as the emissary way more than before. His uniform is so janky here, we get a glimpse of the Velcro that holds on his communicator.
His communicator?
Oh god, my brain is bad, guys. My brain is bad. But you can see it's Velcro that they're attaching that on. We almost never see that angle.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently the painting they have here is a bit of a treasure map for the location of the lost city. And Kira says she's heard of a prophecy of someone touched by the prophets finding it someday. So, naturally, Indiana Sisko starts researching. And thanks to AI upscaling, he finds his first clue. He goes to the holosuite and recreates the statue and continues AI upscaling. And he works until 3 a.m. before getting kicked out by Quark.
Biggest mistake he makes here, Keith, is you should know when you're going to Quark's holosuites, never sit on the floor.
No. Don't touch the walls. Don't touch the floor.
Yeah, bad idea.
Very, very bad idea.
But what's really cool watching this now, though, is that with like VR and the new Apple headset thing, like we can do this now. And I was thinking, I am a big fan of Google's full three-dimensional rendering of all the big museums in the world. So like you can go to the Louvre right now on Google and like click through like you do on Google Street View, all major museums and all like the Louvre, Philadelphia Museum of Art. It's
at a high enough fidelity to be
100%,
worth it?
100%. And I'm sure you can do it in VR as well. I haven't done that, but as we get older and this technology starts to even develop even more, the ability for like kids, forget us, right? How about underfunded communities to be able to like go to the pyramids of Giza and walk around and take those tours and do that type of thing? That is really where as for all the AI and all of this, the fear that is totally warranted, there is enough practical benefit that there's some excitement to be had.
I think underprivileged kids are people of any folks who aren't able to travel. I think that's a great idea. And I also think for older people, whether it's like I never, like I can't travel as much anymore. It's something that I saw when I was on my honeymoon. I'd love to see it again, or they never got a chance to see. That part of it, I think, is great. I'm
most excited to, like, for me, it's space, right? Like, give me the 4K feed of when everybody launches. Like when they did that, when SpaceX did that launch and they took us up with them, I was like, this is give me all of this.
Yeah. So have you already bought the Apple Vision Pro? Have you already spent what should be your down payment on
Let me tell you,
house?
And everything I've read, you can get the Meta Quest right now for under $500, the Meta Quest 3, and it is every bit worth it, whereas I would never spend $4,000 on VR.
I think that's growth. I see growth in that, sir. Yeah.
Hey, man, I like to spend my money, Keith, but I do love value proposition as well.
Okay, well, good. Yeah, we got to focus on getting you your basement, man. That's all I'm saying.
It's coming.
So, Quark mentions a pleasure maze program with a surprise in the center. Damn, we got to get this technology invented already. Yeah. I'm just saying. I'm a single dude. I don't leave the basement.
Keith, I'm gonna tell you one more time.
I want one of these. Yeah.
You can get the Meta Quest for under $500.
I don't like I have not found VR to be satisfying. I find it like I got nauseous when I use it, but they got to get it lighter. All right. Anyway, I am rejecting the premise of what you're talking about. So I
don't know what you're talking about. All right. So Sisko gets zapped.
Yeah, Sisko tries to save this game and gets zapped. So in Act 1, Odo is naturally mad at Quark for his crappy maintenance on the holosuite that got Sisko zapped, but Quark says it's because O'Brien won't assign Rom to fix the holosuite, and only Rom can fix his janky holosuite, which makes sense.
Do you remember having to hit F5 all the time? Save scumming, they used to call it?
No.
When you played video games back in the day, your shortcuts were F5 was save, F7 was load to previous game. And so
I didn't know
Back
that.
in the days when you could die all the time in adventure games, you would spam F5, and they would call that save scumming.
Save scumming. Huh. So I was mostly playing the sports games at that point. So like before that, I don't think you could do that with
Now,
like
Keith,
Space Quest.
Did you observe losses, or if you were about to lose with 1 second left, would you pull the cartridge out?
I'm the type of guy. Well, with a cartridge, there's no saving your losses anyway, right? There's no way to save. Period. No, I'm the type of guy who just I do what you do on the fighting games or the adventure games, where I kind of nerf it because I really like just generating stats.
Yeah,
because that's all I want to do. I want to play as Phil Simms and the Giants, and I'm playing wide receiver, and like I got to become the top in the career history. Play the season mode over and over again. Basically, go 16-0 every single year. Doesn't matter. I just want Phil Simms to be the MVP.
Guys, the cutest thing Keith does, and he does it he did it when I first met him, and he does it as an old man now, and he'll send me pictures of it. Is he gets a new sports game, and he erases the names of all the players, and then he like replaces them with friends of his, or
I build you guys out,
or
as
not friends.
players.
Yeah, like it depends, right? It's just people. I don't know the sort of like psychological decision making that takes place as to who's who and who plays what positions.
Especially in hockey, like where you are in my life determines what line you're on.
I know. There's a whole. It would actually be an incredible deep dive to take at one point. To walk through
look at every year.
Yeah, just to walk through that whole decision making process. But anyway.
And for a while, the terrifying, like towering giant defenseman who was a goon was after a certain former agent we both know.
Oh, that's hysterical. Red hair. Okay, moving on.
Yep. Might have Me-too'd me a little bit. Anyway, where are we? Wow, we are just not focused today.
No. Well, I haven't spoken to a human being in a couple days, so.
That's true. So Sisko is okay, happily, but Bashir explains he's got some neural side effects from the zap. And apparently he's going to be on Molly for the rest of the episode. So, in his quarters, Jake has cooked dinner for Ben, and he is proud of him. Jake reminds him that, hey, buddy, your girlfriend's coming out of prison tomorrow, and is going to be coming back, which should be exciting, but Ben is focused on playing with his food because he's still working through the Indiana Jones of it all, and he plays with his food and creates the shapes from the obelisk. So he immediately hops back into his research. But then he gets a call from an admiral who was clearly reading his lines that are taped up next to the camera like any good self-tape.
That's exactly what I was thinking. And I was like, I hope when if he's in the actual episode, he does a better read, because it was definitely a cold read.
Yeah. Let me tell you, Mike, I can explain everything about this episode.
Line break.
Line break. Wait, that was really. I mean,
it wasn't great.
I get what they're trying to do because they're trying to like have him match Sisko's eye line, but it is one of the less.
It feels like that weird close-up camera on the Tonys, the teleprompter cam.
That's right, like aimed right up at your jowls. I was like, no, thank you, please don't do that to me. But yeah, let me tell you, as somebody who helps his ex-wife with 1,000 self-tapes, like taping up your lines next to the camera is very much a thing. Anyway.
Yeah, because when I had work purchase me an actual teleprompter to do some work for them, and setting that crap up is such a pain in the A. Just get some tape.
Well, I mean, I got the teleprompter app for my phone for some of the Manimal stuff. But because I'm not using the phone as the camera, it's still a little bit to the side.
Yeah. Like, but the teleprompter is like, it's obviously the tilted mirror over the lens, so you're actually looking direct. But even then, there's pros and cons.
Now, with that, are you able to use whatever camera you want, or do you have to use the camera built into the teleprompter itself?
No, it's like a little hood. It's like an old-timey hood. It goes over my DSLR, and then I use my iPad on a shelf, and I have a little remote that like feeds it up.
Oh, interesting.
It's pretty cool, yeah. They're not that expensive. They're like $150 or whatever.
That's too expensive, but it's too expensive for Manimal. But maybe I'll look. But honestly, like if I just tell Nick will pay for it, he doesn't give crap.
You're damn right.
All right.
That guy's just
Anyway.
you think I throw money around. Nick's got like a
Oh.
he's got like a hot dog cannon. He's just shooting cash wads out.
Seriously, he just like Venmos me, just sort of regularly.
He's like,
just
say
for
happy
no
birthday
reason.
to my friend. Here's money.
I was like, all right, this is great. You clearly make a lot more money than I do. I'll take it. So anyway, this admiral doing the self-tape has good news. The Federation has agreed to accept Bajor in, and everybody is coming for the big ceremony from all over the galaxy.
We've been doing that since season 1, man. This is big news.
Right. This is the entire objective of Sisko being on the station in the first place. It's what Picard told him to do. He said, do anything short of breaking the Prime Directive to get Bajor into the Federation. So this episode, it's interesting because this episode is as distracted about that as Sisko is. I think that's sort of part of the writing of it.
Yeah.
The push and pull of it is like, that's such a big deal. And from what we understand now, really important. Cardassia does not want to mess with the Federation. And same thing with the Dominion or whatever. Like, this is great for Bajor to join the Federation for now. It might change by the end of the episode. We're going to find out. So in the bar, Quark does some excited ceremony welcoming the Federation. This is all very good for business for him. But of course, the first flag he he drops says, "Welcome, Klingons." Very funny.
Yeah, it was very funny.
Always prepared, assuming the Klingons were going to win the war. I thought that was a great color and exactly what Quark has done. Quark doesn't give he doesn't care much who's in charge of the station. Then, still pregnant, Kira sits down with Worf and Dax and admits her feelings about Bajor joining the Federation have changed. She's now very much on board and happy about it, and that dealing with Sisko and Starfleet has changed her mind. Which, again, this is... a lot of the little character details in this episode are so Deep Space Nine because it shows progression, it shows change. And so Kira's being very, very skeptical of the Federation. And, I don't trust. Bajor needs to be free. Whatever, they don't get us. They're going to be controlling. And seeing her change based on Sisko. And then seeing the opposite happen with Sisko.
And then Win as well, right?
And
There's
then
like
Win as
three
well.
main points of... It's not just change. It's the truth that most people evolve and change their thinking. It's like we were talking about earlier, flippantly, but you don't have to. It's not always in television and sci-fi specifically. You usually see people dig their feet in, right? Whereas here we're showing that if you earn it, growth and change can also be interesting.
And I think that with Sisko's relationship with being the emissary, so many stories in art are kind of about losing faith, right? But Sisko's story is about gaining faith. And I think that it makes it kind of unique here. And like not only gaining faith, but becoming a religious figure. And like gaining not just faith in the prophets, because he doesn't have the same faith as the Bajorans do, but he starts to believe like, oh, I am a part of this bigger thing. And I have this destiny and I have this power. It's a very unique standpoint.
Yeah.
A very unique storytelling here. And I think that's what makes this episode very interesting, is it's sort of continuing the trilogy of the Emissary trilogy.
Yeah, we'll talk more specifics, but it's a good point to bring up. What I love about this episode is that I think if I was to define it, my elevator pitch for it is taking a lot of preconceived... If you laid out plot beats in a bullet list for me in this, I would have very firm guesses as to how things would go. And almost to a letter, they are subverted. They subvert expectation in many ways in this episode, and I credit it for it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Like, oh, we're going to join the Federation. Kira's going to be skeptical of that.
Win is a bad guy, always, right? She always out for thinking for herself, right? Ben is going to find out what Ben would choose to believe the medical reason for his visions versus the spiritual reasons.
And he would stand by the Federation as the right thing to do no matter what.
And there's another more subtle one that I'll save until we get to it. But.
Cool. So, in the scene, Worf makes no mention of time traveling, fighting the Borg, or getting the Defiant almost blown up with Adam Scott.
Also, Nana is fake pregnant here, right?
She's now fake pregnant,
Yeah.
right? So they had to write this whole storyline to cover the fact that she was real pregnant, but now she has to remain fake pregnant.
Also, I was seeing. I promise you, I don't read the. I just look at the pictures.
I'm seeing you tomorrow.
No,
I will slap you.
I promise
silly.
you, I just looked at it. But I have noticed that they wickedly out of order at this point. Like this episode is listed as 508. And
really?
The two other ones are listed that I've never even 9 and 10 I've never even heard of. So it's all kinds of funked.
By the way, tomorrow you gotta bring my figure.
I already have him. I have him set by the door.
Okay, great. Yeah. And I have to think about what I gotta bring to you before I go. Anyway, Keith and Mike talk about real life. All right, so later.
And by real life, do you mean bringing toys to each other?
Is there a life more real? The hell are you talking about, sir?
Oh, I'm gonna bring you pneumonia, apparently.
Great. Jillian's at the ENT right now, so it's gonna be great.
Awesome.
So later, Kira goes to talk with Sisko in the holosuite, where he is still searching for clues on Valhalla. And she discovers that Sisko is in a trance and unresponsive until we sell some 1996 Cadillacs and cars and other nonsense, because it's a commercial break. But luckily, we find out it was false peril, and he wakes right up. However, he has had a vision of being there on Valhalla. He is seeing and understanding everything, the future and the past, including, put this in italics, the coming war with the Dominion. He talks about as a future thing. Kira says he's having Patemfar. And now we're basically doing Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Yeah, there's wheat and locusts and...
Patemfar had very few cares. Yeah, I wonder if they were doing a deliberate reference there, because Patemfar and Potiphar basically the same thing.
That's pretty good, I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, we've both been Joseph before.
That's true. No right for either of us to do it, but we did.
Absolutely not. No, but hey, look, if you wanted to go back to 1998, summer of 1998 in community theater in
Northeast.
Vermont.
Yeah, mine was 1999 spring. So we were within a year. You could have caught two of the just all-time performances of Joseph.
Go, Joseph! Somewhere else and put a shirt on. Okay,
I definitely was wearing a long sleeve shirt throughout that performance. So.
Oh yeah, there was no shirtless Joseph when I was doing it either. No, I had a great coat though. I had an amazing coat.
I don't remember it.
Anyway, so Sisko is having visions and he's delighted by it. Then O'Brien calls and says Kai Wynn is coming. Uh-oh. Sisko tells Kira to go blow her off. I'm playing with my obelisk.
And Kai Wynn is wearing Hillary Clinton's robe to the Tonys.
Tony robes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. Anyway, I could think of every conservative of the country is like, Hillary is Kai Wynn. No, she's not. All right. So Wynn shows up and of course is annoyed that Sisko isn't there to greet her. Yeah, that's true. Hey, she
good,
produced stuffs.
Yeah.
There it is.
Well done.
Oh my God, the Tonys. We'll talk about the Tonys off air. Yeah. But here's my thought about the Tonys. It was really fun to see so many friends and enemies, performing, winning in the arena, and whatever. So you really have been in the business for a very long time. What really disturbed me about it was how many people I knew in the in memoriam section. I'm like, I have been doing this for far too long. All right. Anyway, Wynn shows up. She's here for signing the
my
Federation.
thing with the Tonys was, sorry, now we're just going to do it. Here's, I
guys, I'm so sorry for wasting all of your time.
Loved and support everything, but they made such a big deal at the top to be like, this, we're bringing the theater experience right to your living rooms. This is just like being at the theater. proceed every performance to stare directly at camera and do things upstage and just follow camera and just, weird. It was mixed well this year, though. At least it sounded good.
It sounded great. And, and the stuff that they integrated in that wasn't live, they did really well.
Yeah.
Getting
Jay-Z to, sing asynchronously.
Well, right, because, the timing of that,
yeah.
Obviously they're on a click track, but it starts out as just piano, so I don't know when they got into the click. Integrating rap in the timing of that perfectly when that's on tape, very impressive. Anyway, I'm so sorry, everybody. Mike and I just need to
we're gonna hang out.
We're gonna have lunch tomorrow, so we'll catch up in real life. So, Wynn is here for the signing, but she is not sure this is a good idea. Meanwhile, but we're not quite sure what her agenda is here yet.
Mm-hmm.
But we always, at this point, assume she has some sort of nefarious agenda. Meanwhile,
don't
Sisko...
forget, because she was presented to us, and I will bring this up later too. It is a huge attempt at a retcon here, because don't forget all those scenes with John Lithgow, or it wasn't John Lithgow, it was
John Lithgow.
What was his name? One of the first times we see her in the temple with Brian Dennehy. No, who is it?
Brian Dennehy.
All great choices
with Bob Saget.
Yeah, but that was some backdoor dealings. John Malkovich? Who is it? All great choices. All great choices. I can't remember though.
Delta Burke? Was it Delta Burke?
Rue? Oh, I forget who it was.
Rue McClanahan.
He didn't want to be credited, right?
You're thinking Frank Langella.
Yes, Frank Langella.
Yeah.
It was very nefarious.
Well, it's
very Caesar.
More than that, she tried to do a coup.
Yeah, that's right.
After that, she tried to do a full coup. So we know she is I don't think we're making her not evil.
Yeah.
I think we're making her complex. Evil has a story too, even though you're the bad guy. So, anyway, meanwhile, Sisko keeps working. He's printed out a bunch of maps. Then Cassidy Yates arrives. He kisses her immediately, he's still on Molly, mind you, and invites her to come to Bajor with him. He thinks he knows where Valhalla is. Now, she's been in prison for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
But, he's feeling it at the moment.
So you remember when we ended the episode where she goes to prison? He's like, I don't know if I can ever be with her again or if I can ever forgive her. And then I guess he hornier than that.
It's been 6 months.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
No, what I think it shows intelligence, man. He knows where his bread is buttered. He ain't dumb. She a good woman.
Yeah. Well, and he's had plenty of time.
Her. He says as much.
Of course, yeah. And he's had plenty of time to think through what she did and to work through all of that. And I'm sure they've been in communication as well. I'm sure that they didn't.
This is the other subversion too, right? They're clearly there's going to be a plot arc that is can they, will they, won't they, all that? Nope. They're you know what? And she back.
Yeah. Now, granted, he's having Chekhov's headache and visions and he's on Molly, but I think it's also true at the same time.
Yeah, but her relationship with Jake is real established. I think they're all right, she's back. Let's do it. She's a great actress.
Yeah. Well, and the only reason she's not here more is because she's on the Larry Sanders Show at this point.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch the Larry Sanders Show?
Love the Larry Sanders Show.
So good.
Yep.
So she plays his assistant.
Larry Sanders Show was sort of kind of Curb before Curb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It was. You had a lot of that sort of
invented
discomfort.
The mockumentary sort of office scenario type of thing.
And the narcissist protagonist who you follow even though he's kind of a crappy person.
Great show. Holds up, I bet.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah, it really does. I saw it maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
I was on a plane. I was flying on. They had the Larry Sanders Show. I was I guess I'll watch them.
Well, there you go. So they head off and beam into the cave set. And he has another one of Chekhov's headache. But they're searching around for Valhalla. And they go around for a while until he realizes he finds it, but it's behind a wall. And but he knows, and he's phasers through a wall of rock. Those phasers are pretty powerful. But he has found Valhalla. And I think, honestly, the whole searching for Atlantis, Indiana Jones part, I think is really fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
And it is a little bit shorthand here, right? It's not like we're going to spend a lot of time, and like we did the searching through this exact cave set looking for Kaelus's sword, and with the characters acting out of character because they're all intense and obsessed with the thingy. But I bought this, and I find the searching for ancient civilizations part like really fun.
I just like the way that they drop obfuscation as well, right? Like, yeah, maybe he's having visions. Maybe the Zap prophecies. Maybe the Zap caused it, right? Or causing these visions. Maybe the visions led him to find Valhalla. Maybe Sisko himself solved it with his cheese, right? Like, there's enough when he's like putting the cheese. Yeah, like theoretically, maybe he solved the puzzle, and that puzzle is what led him. Like, you could argue away all of the spiritual convenience, but I think it's cool that they put that obfuscation there, and then you're left with the ability to take the out if you want to, but pretty much we know where Sisko stands, at least on it.
Yeah, he got himself to the 5th shop. That's what I'm saying. So in Act 3, everybody is working to set up accommodations for the big signing event, but Kira is distracted about Valhalla. She says, I was just thinking about Captain Sisko finding Valhalla. Bajoran archaeologists have been searching for the sacred city for 10,000 years, and he found it in a few days. And this is when Kai Wynn comes in and wants to talk to Kira. And she says, I'm asking if you think the Emissary will forgive you for doubting him. You must be aware that I never truly believed he was the Emissary. Yeah, I'm sure it crossed his mind. But Wynn says, I was wrong. I know that by now. Only someone touched by the prophets could have found Valhalla. Does that mean you're not going to try to block Bajor's admittance into the Federation? Wynn says, I will follow the path of the Emissary has led out for us. I have to admit I'm surprised to hear that. It takes a lot of courage to admit that you're wrong. And this is such a great Wynn line in response to that. And you think I lack courage? I didn't say that. She always has some way to like just
make you feel like an idiot.
Twist the knife and just be a little dickish about everything, even when she's being reasonable. But here's what I think is interesting. Wynn says, those of you who were in the Resistance, you're all the same. You think you're the only ones who fought the Cardassians, that you saved Bajor single-handedly. Perhaps you forget, Major, that the Cardassians arrested any Bajoran they found teaching the word of the prophets. I spent 5 years in a Cardassian prison camp. I can remember each and every beating that I suffered. And where you had weapons to protect myself, all I had was my faith and my courage. Walk with the prophets, child. I know I will. And I think this is really an interesting color to add to this, that Wynn also suffered. Wynn also fought in her own way, and Wynn also paid consequences for it. And in some ways, while Kira was out fighting and risking her life and going through the trauma of war, Wynn was suffering too, and she was fighting with ideas. And so I think it's a very interesting color to add the trauma of the occupation to Wynn, because I think without really knowing this story directly, what would you assume how Wynn spent the occupation? Like holed up somewhere with some advantage and, staying out of the fray, and she had, she was sitting in a monastery with a bunch of money and, diplomatic immunity or something. No, she was really in it too and suffering. So I think it's an interesting color. So on Bajor, the Admiral comes to talk to Sisko at the dig site. He's impressed they found Valhalla, but doubts that it came from a vision. He's uncomfortable with the whole thing and wonders why Sisko isn't on the station for the ceremony and why Sisko is now ducking his calls. But Sisko wants to stay and keep exploring his visions, and he's acting even more intense and strange than Sisko always normally acts. So, it's like when Avery he's at like a 9.5, just like having breakfast normally.
Right.
In order to show like the intensity of vision Sisko, he's got to really crank it higher. But the Admiral says, all right, you can stay here, but come back tomorrow and get a physical. And Sisko then, of course, has another headache. So there's an interesting part in the script here. So coming out of the scene, it just says in the stage directions, reestablishing, parentheses, preferably a shot with some ships coming into the station. We see the reestablishing shot. The writer did not get his wish. No ships arriving in the establishing shot because we spent too much money messing up Sisko's uniform, I would imagine. But the next morning, Sisko, of course, has blown off his physical, and the Admiral and Bashir discuss some sort of medical technobabble explaining Sisko's visions. So again, this is what Deep Space Nine always does with anything spiritual, religious, or sort of magical. There is a spiritual explanation, and there is a scientific explanation, and we are left to choose from three options, right? We believe only the science, we believe only the spiritual, or we believe some combination of the two. And I think that's why I buy it. As a non-spiritual person myself, right? Being given the scientific and the spiritual together and being able to sort of like pick and choose. Well, it is wormhole aliens. They just have powers we don't understand, but also there is a destiny. Well, does the destiny come from a lack of existing in linear time that seems magical, seems spiritual, but it's just because they see the past and the future at the same time? It's the type of thing that allows somebody like me, who is basically a hard agnostic, to get on board with the story and to buy all of it all, because you're allowing those things to coexist. I like that part.
Well, we all also have seen the prophets. We know it's legit. We don't. I'm
Right.
not necessarily that they're religious or spiritual or anything like that, but they do. They are beings that do exist. So it's not far fetched to me that they could be communicating with him, or
Right. Well, and if we accept that there are beings more powerful than we are, who are able to control things we can't, that's no different than any religion.
Yeah.
That really exists. Just zoom out a little bit further. It's just a being whose powers we don't understand. Anyway, then Sisko arrives on the promenade, being swamped by Bajorans. He wanders around telling people their futures, including the Admiral. And he's doing He's either doing mentalist tricks, or is the emissary and is being given access to all this information. We don't know. Interesting. So in Act 4, Sisko's in the infirmary and still having visions. And Sisko says, I was on Bajor. Valhalla had been rebuilt. The streets were filled with people celebrating. But then, a shadow blocked out the sun, and we looked up and saw a cloud filling the sky. It was a swarm of locusts, billions of them. They hovered over the city, and the noise was deafening. But just as quickly as they came, they moved on. And now I know where they're going. Cardassia. So, beyond the locusts of it all, that obviously that has been a religious metaphor and a real thing. As we mentioned in Joseph, they have the locust vision. But here in our world, it's very interesting that locusts came to Bajor, then went to Cardassia. So Bashir explains that the headaches he's having are going to kill him unless he does some surgery. But of course, the surgery will end the visions. Sisko says, nope, I want my visions and I have to see this through. Later, Jake and Cassidy frantically try to talk him into the surgery, but he continues to refuse. Ben thinks he's staring the universe in the face, and he's really starting to seem pretty unhinged. But he's also tapped into something real, and Cassidy and Jake are terrified. So it's like we're beginning to build the peril here. This is a kind of like archetype of a story we've seen many times before. There's something about it. It feels kind of Stephen King-y to me. Like that there's this larger force exerting itself on the fate of our story here, and that it comes with a superpower, and the superpower always comes with a cost. But I like that in Stephen King's work, because it makes stuff feel epic.
Mm-hmm.
It, like, you have this drive of the inevitable. It's one of the reasons I like it so much, because like we see our people here navigating this world, but they're like these much larger forces driving and giving powers and taking powers away. It feels terribly epic.
Well, it's also a major balancing tool, right? So, they, like I said, they've created a lot of obfuscation. So you can choose to look at this and through many different ways, right? Whether what's real, what's not real, all of that. There's doubt at the very least, right? But additionally, one thing we do know for certain is how much Ben loves Jake. The ends he's gone to rescue Jake, to see Jake. He's been through whole lifetimes of fucking torture.
That's true. Yeah.
So for him to decide to choose this over staying with Jake, balances the stakes, right? It shows us exactly how high the stakes are and how important these visions are in this mission to see it through, to get the messages for Ben.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, and it's like I keep going back to this idea of epic, like these big stories. It's Lord of the Ringsian. We feel that this is part of the much larger arc of the thing, and I think that makes it exciting. Cassidy and Jake are naturally terrified by all of this. Then Wynn comes in and says it's time, and she is going to help him on his journey. But we don't know what that means yet. So the rest of our heroes...
Cassidy, what do you think about that?
The rest of our heroes on Ops are nervous. Dax and O'Brien think this risk is too great, and Kira and Worf have faith. Do not attempt to convince them, Major. They cannot understand. Since when do you believe in the prophets? What I believe is faith. Without it, there will be no victory. If the captain's faith is strong, he will prevail. Dax says that's not much to be betting his life on. And Kira says, you're wrong. Faith is everything. Here we go again with the Deep Space Nine exploration of faith as a concept. We then see what Sisko is up to. He's going to commune with the Orb of Prophecy. And this is dangerous as well, as Wynn reinforces, and he has another attack. He opens the box, and we cut straight to the wardroom, where the admirals and Bajoran bigwigs are about to do the signing. They're all waiting for Sisko, who was an hour late. The admiral is annoyed and asks Wynn if they can start without him, and she agrees. They're about to do the final signing when Sisko staggers in and says, the Locusts, they'll destroy Bajor unless it stands alone. And the stage directors say, that gets the room buzzing.
Bolian!
There's nothing like loves more than pointing at a Bolian. You don't get like a sticker every time you mention a Bolian. Fan, that's true. Watley says, Ben, what the hell are you talking about? And Sisko says, it's too soon. Bajor must not join the Federation. If it does, it will be destroyed. And I wrote, Avery, definitely committed. That's what he does.
Strong take.
Then he has, never take the small choice. Make a choice. Then
they don't explicitly say why they would be destroyed, but I assume like in the war.
Well, it's going to be something that we will probably find out about moving forward.
I hope so.
But it is a prophecy. But I feel like I'm not giving away too much to say this will be addressed moving forward. Then he has a seizure. So in Act 5, in the infirmary, Bashir says he needs to operate immediately. But Kira says that is against Sisko's wishes. Bashir says, I can't go against his wishes without the consent of his closest relative. And this leaves the decision to Jake, who understandably chooses to save his father. So they go into surgery, and Wynn and Kira discuss. Wynn says, I would have trusted the prophets. Maybe we're the ones who need to trust the prophets. For all we know, this is part of their plan. Maybe they've already told Captain Sisko everything they want him to know. And Wynn says, perhaps. I suppose you've heard Bajor will not be joining the Federation today. The Council of Ministers have voted to delay acceptance of the Federation membership. And Kira says, you must be very pleased. I wish I were. But things aren't so simple, not anymore. Before Captain Sisko found Valhalla, my path was clear. I knew who my enemies were. But now nothing is certain. So interesting. Wynn's. One of the foundational things that happened with Wynn here, one, we know more about her backstory, which I think is interesting, and her motivations. But now, this is the turn for Wynn to truly believe that Sisko is the emissary, and her faith isn't shaken. It's built in, I guess, dug in now, and that has changed.
It's probably easier to justify yourself, like if her only color is I'm power hungry, I want to ascend, I want more power, I want to acquire power. Well, okay, then Sisko. Her believing Sisko's not the emissary is advantageous to her ascent, right? But if he is, now he becomes it's not particularly an obstacle. It's just it causes
cannot be
doubt
dismissed.
For her. Yeah, he can't be dismissed, and potentially he could be an ally.
And it adds another color for her, because I think Wynn's faith, has been up to question, right? Is she using her position as a religious leader just as a tool to get what she wants? Does he actually buy it? Does she actually have faith?
Right.
And I think this confirms that, yeah, she really does.
Well, it also then goes back in time, right? It retroactively kind of colors her decision-making during the Burial thing. And, maybe, so if she is being guided by faith and we trust that a little bit more, then maybe she was saying we need to see him. It was a very similar decision when Vedic Burial was sick.
Right.
And so she is at least consistent in her conduct in these types of situations.
It doesn't make us question the selfishness and self-servingness of her choices, but it does make us question, she is being guided by faith in some fashion. And that, I think, is very interesting. Genuine faith, not pretend faith. So later, Sisko wakes up with Jake and Bashir. He's horrified. He's lost access to his visions. I almost had it. I almost understood it all. Even later, the Admiral is pissed at Sisko for blowing up the treaty with the Bajorans, and he asks for him to take it back. I'm sure they would listen to you. But Sisko says, no, I can't do that. The visions may have faded, but everything I said, everything I did still feels right. When I said Bajor should wait before it joins the Federation, I never felt so certain about anything in my life. And Whatley says, I could have your commission for this. But he knows that he'll lose Bajor forever if he fires Sisko. So he's basically like, you have leverage, but I would have fired you. I'd fire you if I can. And from his point of view, I get it. But Sisko says, but it's not over. One day, Bajor will join the Federation. That much I'm sure of. Are you speaking as a Starfleet captain or as the emissary of the Prophet? And Sisko says, both. And this really complicates Sisko's relationship with the Federation.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like he's now subverted the chain of command by how powerful his religious power over the Bajorans is. And that makes him a real wild card here for the Federation. And Sisko's divided loyalties here. It's really complex. And I would imagine this is exactly why the Federation was so uncomfortable with the emissary thing right from the very beginning, and why Sisko was uncomfortable with it too. But it was much more manageable when Sisko wasn't buying it. And now that he is, what are they gonna do? I don't know.
What if, church and state, right? What if What if a rabbi or a priest or what if a deacon or something ran for president, right? Well, it's not unconstitutional, but it's questionable.
Well, but it also and that brings in all sorts of sort of you fear bigotry with that as well.
Yeah.
Because when Kennedy was running for president, people were like, "Oh, well, who's really in charge, the president or the Pope?"
Right.
And you have anti-Semitic sort of tropes with that, and it's like, are you? And so this is why separation of church and state is so important. And when we've mixed it up here, it's really messy. So finally, Sisko returns home to Jake and Cassidy, and they want to have a welcome back dinner for both of them now.
And I would imagine Sisko's like, you know what? How about we skip dinner? And Jake, why don't you go back to your room with Nog? Because
Jake, go play some video games.
There's just a little bit of Molly left in my system, and I want to take advantage.
I'm still tasting colors. Let's go. All right. Well, let us all taste some colors. We move along. Home into the thing.
6, 7, 8.
All right, Mike, were there any wormholes in this wild story?
Yeah, the wharf of it all, right? The sort of entire journey of well, I guess it's not really a wormhole. I guess if the prophets told him hey, here's the cheat code, make 2 lefts, a right, go up, then down, then up, then right again, and that's where Valhalla is, then I guess it's pretty easy. It's not really, but it did feel like that was a truncated Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I mean, the defiance of it all. There's a couple wormholes. But I'm trying to think in the plot itself. I guess I'd want to know. Well, you said we're going to find out, so that's not a plot hole. So I don't really have anything. To be honest with you, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you're right. The production wormholes of why are we not addressing First Contact? But that's more of a production wormhole than wormhole in this episode. Yeah, I mean, this really comes down to, do you buy the wormhole aliens, the prophets, right? Do you buy that whole thing? And I know that behind the scenes, Paramount did not like this. Mm-hmm. And most of these stories were not that popular with the fans, although apparently this episode was. And so I think this episode is important in turning us to get on board with that story. And I'm on board at this point. But yeah, I don't think there are wormholes beyond the sort of magic spirituality of it all. If you're buying that, you're buying that. And so, no, I think it makes sense. Let's go best moment.
Whew, there's so much good stuff here. But I do think I think the moment where we get the sort of rug pull with Wynn is the best moment in the episode. I think the most effective episode. I think it's so well done. Even Fletcher, right? Her performance, you buy it. Whereas she's so skilled at playing just a little bit of subterfuge underneath everything she says. You never quite. It's like Garrick. You never quite know if it's on the up and up. For those few deliveries of the sort of the prison camp moment, she removes it so that you recognize none of that is to try to sway Kira or way. It's legit. It's on the up and up. And maybe I see that you have some doubts in there, but for me it read pretty pure. And I just think it was just an episode filled with subverting expectation. That was the biggest of them all for me. To take our pure evil villain and be there's layers here, and we're not going to just let it off the hook and make it black and white. So I'm going to list it as my best moment.
No, I agree. I do think it is the best moment, and I do think the performance is great. I do think the writing is great, and I think this is where the awesomeness of Win is that you can everything she says usually means two things, sometimes three or four, and you interpreted that purely as one thing, and I interpreted it as yes, she was telling the truth. And she was exposing some like truth and vulnerability there. And at the same time, I still think there was a layer of power digging in it.
Oh, for sure. Because she opens it with them much, right? She's like, you guys are all the same.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, I'm going to tell you this tragic story about myself, but it's still a little bit of a power play. So it's like, oh, you're mad at me about the recycling? My cat died this morning.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh God, it's not really related to what, I can tell a true tragic story to get out of something in a crappy way. In some way, I think there's still an element of power stabbing in it, even though she is telling a true tragic story. And I think even this most vulnerable, this most good, the most face version of Win still has that in there, and I love it. I think that's just like, you gotta have that salt in there, and I think it's really interesting. What do you say we hand out some stem bolts, Mike?
You get some stem bolts. Hell yeah, they are self-sealing. Here are some stem bolts for you.
Even though, and then when Win walks onto the set, you're like, oh, clearly she will be the driving antagonistic force in this episode. But that's not the case here either.
Yeah,
it's sort of, it's an episode rife with just Deep Space Nine writers reminding us that they're not always going to play by the book, and they're not always going to. I think that Cassidy's back, and they didn't make a big deal. They didn't make a plot point out of it. I think that. Even the like Ben's going to decide, we have to decide whether he's going to live or die. They didn't overstay their welcome to that. It's just so much happening in this episode that here's like my conflict with it though. I wouldn't say that any of it was particularly like super interesting. Like it's not a super fun episode. It's not the mystery is not even that like compelling, right? What I do think is, though Avery has some choice takes in this, I will say that what I appreciate about is that he's able to also be very subtle, right? There is a distinct difference between his interest in the puzzle as a puzzle before he has the visions and he's zapped, and after, right? You see there's a difference, and you see that shift, and it helps tell the story. To be frank with you, I'm not actually that compelled by the exploration of faith either in this episode. But what I respect it more than I think I liked it, right? Like it threads so so many needles that could be traps, and it puts so many of our characters in unique vantage points and perspectives. I did see, one element we didn't even talk about. What I also liked too was I'm also very often compelled by how viscerally I respond to when, like, I'll just pick a rant, like the Christian scientists who don't believe in going to the doctor or whatever. Sorry, I don't mean to paint that with such a broad brush. I don't have the nuance of the understanding of their religion and faith, but I do know that you hear the stories of, oh, such and such a kid had this disease and they didn't get the medical stuff and the kid died or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm also
hard not to have that fill you with rage.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
But I thought that they were able to present that sort of a ethical quandary in this episode and not have me respond that way, right? Like I kind of understood where Ben was coming from, and I understood where Jake was coming from. Jake and Cassidy were coming from.
Yeah.
So I thought that was
cool.
cool.
Because we knew that there was something real happening in Sisko, and that there were other forces that were real, that were actually influencing how this played out.
But you can understand why the network is weird by that, because it's hard not to draw the parallel I just drew, but also
you're playing with fire a little bit.
It is
for
different,
sure.
Right? Yeah. So all of that I appreciate and I like. I'm more interested in how it's going to pay off, and because the why of it is what really the big question that comes, right? So why we've been working towards this? Why shouldn't they join, right?
Right.
So the episode ends up asking a question, another question, like plot wise, right?
Yeah.
And so that as long as you are filling me with confidence that we're going to address it, then I feel cool about that. But I've known that they've kind of not done that sometimes too. So all told, I really respected the episode probably more than I enjoyed it. So subverting the expectation of how positive we've been talking about it this whole time, I end up probably only in the 81 stem bolt area.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's hard for me to separate this episode as a standalone, being in the wormhole alien's position of knowing the past and the future all at the same time.
You are the prophet, Keith.
I am the prophets here. And so I can't look at this the way that you can. Because you are a linear being.
Very corporeal.
Whereas I am omnipotent and I know the whole story. And so...
Yeah, so let me input.
Yeah.
I'm getting inklings, right? And this is just no spoilers.
Right,
but friends I've seen who have seen the show, who keep asking me where I am, and all kinds of I'm starting to put context clues together. I'm trying not to do that.
Right, sure.
What I'm coming to believe is that Sisko's and don't make any facial, that Sisko's place as the emissary is actually much more vital to Deep Space Nine as a property than I have ever thought it is, right? I keep seeing it as sort of like an interesting addendum.
Little side quest.
Yeah,
right.
Rather than the whole meat and potatoes of the whole goddamn thing. And I'm starting to get vibes that it might be closer to that than... And to be frank with you, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I would like that. I just don't know. But if that is the case, then this would be a pivotal episode in some ways.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I sit with it. And you hold that knowledge, Keith.
I do hold that knowledge, and I think I could also sort of sidestep that and say that what we do know is that Bajor is pivotal to all of this. And that the wormhole and the wormhole aliens themselves are pivotal to all of this. And
if Bajor got vaporized, that would be bad.
Yeah, for sure. And that Sisko's divided loyalty outside of the deities of it all is super important here. And protecting Bajor and protecting the Federation are of equal importance.
Yeah, and I think the other thing this episode does then, that I guess holds a central weight to it, is that the stakes have raised intergalactically, because there is now... Whereas Kirk and... I'll say Kirk. Kirk has was kind of seen as a loose cannon, right? But everybody loved James T. Kirk, but he was kind of a loose cannon. Jean-Luc, very respected, very grounded. People trusted him.
By the book.
People knew that if he made a decision, they stood by it. Sisko is now under the watchful eye of Starfleet, because clearly they're questioning what he's up to, right?
Yeah.
And that's not a great place to be.
Yeah, well, and he is dangerous to them because of this gigantic outside influence moving in both directions, right?
Right.
Bajor has a outsized influence over Sisko, right? It's not just some other planet. It's not just some other alien species, whatever. Bajor has a huge influence over him. But the reverse is also true. He has a huge influence over Bajor.
Mhm.
And because we know of the wormhole is the key to the entire conflict with the Dominion.
Mhm.
It's all about the wormhole.
Right.
Because without the wormhole, we don't have any of this. And Bajor has the control over the wormhole. So it's just so many different moving pieces, all of which are tied, and all of which kind of dangerous.
Right.
A little bit. So anyway, to get back to the what I feel about this episode, I like the mystery. I could do a whole episode of him finding Valhalla and doing the mystery of that, Indiana Jonesing, all of that. I think that's fine. The having visions and like having it take a toll or whatever, that's sort of like a trope. It's like a thing we've done, not Star Trek has done, but like that's a story that we've told many times. But I think the fact that we didn't do the whole episode about that, I think helped. But what I like about this episode is it builds that sort of epic feeling that we're, the gods and monsters and people and whatever, like they're all converging here in this moment. We don't know what it means yet. The joining the Federation or not. We don't know what the locust means. We don't know why they're going to Cardassia after whatever. We don't know what any of that means yet. Being in the position of knowing the story, I know that this isn't going to be orphaned.
Mm-hmm.
This concept is not going to be orphaned. So therefore, like, I care about it more. If we'd not followed up on this, I don't know if it would have landed so much for me. So I think its importance is better than the episode itself and bigger. So it gets 84 self-sealing stem bolts. I don't want to talk about too much more I don't want to give away anything. But that's sort of where I'm at. So, folks, let us know what you thought in the comments here below on the YouTube.
Spoilers will be deleted.
Spoilers will be deleted. But if you're just listening to this on the podcast version, you can hop over to the YouTube and leave a comment. Come say hi. Come see our shining faces. We're always happy to chat with you because I know some of you are listening to it that way. That's if I go back and revisit, that's how I'm doing it. I ain't looking at myself for 2 hours. But anyway, so we thank you all for watching and listening. This episode, by the way, gets a 7.1 on IMDb, which makes it only the 122nd out of 173 ratings on IMDb. So there we go. Coming up next week is The Darkness and the Light. That will be interesting to talk about. We will see you back in our regular schedule next week. It's going to be great. We'll be back on the horse.
Well, this airs regular too.
This airs regular. No, it's more for us.
Yeah.
That we'll be back on a regular schedule. So excited to get into it. Mike, I'll see you tomorrow in real life. And for the rest of you, we'll see you back here next week. Thank you for watching. Keith and Mike, watch Deep Space Nine. Thank you for watching K&M Entertainment. If you enjoyed our particular brand of nonsense, please like and subscribe. Or become one of our patrons at patreon.com/KNM. Yeah, bring my toys, damn it.